I'm a sucker for roleplay. In games. Fallout New Vegas, Divinity Original Sin 2, the Mass Effect trilogy, Disco Elysium, etc. and on and on and on, and I'm even more fond of games that thrust the player into leadership positions, a la Pathfinder Kingmaker and Wrath of the Righteous. But as dear as I hold these titles, I'm often disappointed with the way they actually handle being a leader, a king, a commander, and have always wished for a game to prioritize that experience over the traditional one. Fortunately, Wild Wits Games claims to grant my wish with Sovereign Tower, putting aside all that distracts from the fantasy of kingdom management, but injecting more than enough complexity to distance itself from simpler titles like Reigns. Now the question is, obviously, does it succeed? Well, I'd say yes. For the most part. Sovereign Tower is a very inspired game, and I use this word to say that it draws much of its aesthetic and setting from other media. To great effect, of course, but it is worth noting. For example, the player is a leper king, like King Baldwin IV, but with an outfit straight out of Kingdom of Heaven. There's a seafaring kingdom, awfully fond of the color blue, with characters that remind me of at least the TV adaptation of Fire and Blood, and I'm genuinely appalled by how blatantly this game plagiarizes the work of an artist, not super well known or anything, correct me if I'm wrong, his name is CJ? That joke aside, the point is that I appreciate a game that wears its inspiration on its sleeve. Couple that with a fantasy setting, much like Esoteric Ebb, that allows for a 15th century frog-mouthed medieval knight to bump heads with Luzine from Andor, and you've got a good little mix going, you know? I get that I made fun of it too, and it does definitely feel like the everyone has freckles Tumblr fan art style, but that's just an unlucky first impression. Sovereign Tower's visuals are truly fantastic. And considering much of the art is, by choice, a bit thematically incongruent, the desaturated pastel color scheme strikes me as a really prudent tool to bind it all together. Now, in this washed out world, the Kingdom of Britannia has been without a ruler for centuries, having its last sovereign ripped from the throne by a malevolent entity known only as the Kingslayer. In present day, the player inhabits the decaying body of a leper, as you know, fighting for their life as the disease spreads to uncracked skin. But now in more ways than one, as the walls that warm them burn to the ground in a country town under attack by the Empire of Angalore. The way this leper chooses to escape is the closest the game gets to character customization, opting instead for all inclusivity with a faceless, voiceless, and essentially bodiless protagonist, thus making it pretty easy for all of us to self-insert. A formless voice beckons the leper to the foot of a white tower, home to the former throne of Britannia. Doors shut tight, said to open only for the new sovereign, a landmark of mystery until now, when it opens for you. So the game begins, and you are the new sovereign, ruler of Britannia, tasked with hurrying the realm along to prosperity. There is no big overarching goal beyond this one. The more involved tales come in the form of the larger threats to the kingdom, but every problem, however big or small, is tackled through two main avenues. The first is a direct audience with the people. If these people are the sovereign's people and don't hail from another kingdom, perhaps they fall into four categories: merchants, scholars, nobles, and commoners, the bulk of the people. Managing their affinity with the sovereign is essential and influences many things. High affinity can provide new dialogue options and solutions, for example. Most significant threats to the kingdom also demand affinity thresholds. Say the Dragon King wants to see you as the bigger dick, well, I chose to rally the people against him, and that gave me a threshold of 14 for the people's approval before a confrontation with him. Unfortunately, these are pretty arbitrary, and they become simple numerical values far too easily. I had to fight the Dragon King whether I used the people, the nobles, or the mystics, and I don't think either one influences the flavor of the battle either. The second avenue is what dictates the outcome of these battles and any other errand the sovereign might ask of their knights. In true Arthurian style, Britannia has a round table and the pick of the litter when it comes to who sits around it. There are over 20 knights available to the sovereign. I only saw about 12, so there's potentially a whole lot of variation there. Each knight has a distinct personality, some more enjoyable than others, and all hail from different lands and realms, fostering some incredibly unique art design among them. Questing is as simple as assigning them to one, but the complexity is in who and why. You see, every knight has a pool of traits, unknown to the Sovereign until they learn through conversation or some cheeky spying. These traits, alongside their base stats, strength, agility, and the like, can vastly change the outcome of a quest. I had to pay a little attention actually to the way a quest description was worded, lest I send the wrong knight for the job. All of this is malleable, however, as developments within their personal narratives add, remove, or swap out traits, and weapons, consumables, and mounts can bolster their stats. I appreciate this system as is, but as the game is very menu heavy, there's a real disconnect when, say, a pirate invasion looks about the same to me as tending to a garden. I think some different visuals and music when deciding the outcome of certain missions would have helped, though I admit that the nature of the game makes that difficult from the get-go. Since we're on the subject, those aren't the only two menus to navigate. As the game progresses, so too does the development of the White Tower, bolstering it with new rooms that house new merchants, characters, and tools to aid the Sovereign in their rule. Be it the kitchen to make damn sure my knights are well fed before a quest, or the map room to consult my advisor or follow up on a few leads and request an audience with certain characters. So this all sounds fine, right? But nothing super special in your eyes, I assume. Well, before I reveal the unique spin Sovereign Tower puts on this formula, I'd like to tell you why it still works without it. It's simple, bar some average prose, the writing is pretty good and creative. The characters are intriguing and the roleplay is deep enough to warrant care and attention. Look, I'll admit, some of these characters miss the mark for me and some of the writing leans far too modern to fit within this world and comes off pretty fucking corny as a result, but the caveat here is that there are so many characters that some are bound to annoy me, so I don't necessarily hold it against the game. I even commend it. It's plain to see the sheer mountainous effort that has gone into making every single character unique and memorable in the way they talk, the way they look, and how they fit into the broader world. So, with that aside, early into their reign, the Sovereign discovers a demon in the crypts, seemingly trapped inside a strange padlock. The demon does as demons do and offers them a power free of charge, the power to roll back time and keep all of what they've learned. Cool, right? A game encouraging me to save scum, I mean a bloody dream come true. At any time, if something didn't go my way, I could ask this little guy to turn back the clock and I could try again. The best part is that it unlocks new dialogue options and gives the Sovereign a form of omniscience that they can play with. And you know what, as an idea, I really like it. It's a bit underutilized, but when it works its wonders for you, it's wonderful. But I wonder if anyone watching this can guess why it mostly didn't work for me. If you guessed tedium, you'd be right. Tedium is the death of this mechanic, as it is the death of any menu-heavy management game. If I have to redo a fight, even if it's turn-based, assuming the gameplay is enjoyable, at least it is still enjoyable, but this game has none of that, and so rolling back time is only worth it when the game essentially gives you no choice. In any other circumstance, using this power for a few extra admittedly awesome lines of dialogue demands that the player makes every single minute choice again. Which knight am I feeding? Whose armor am I repairing? Oh, I have to buy this sword again, and I have to equip my knights with their weapons and mounts and consumables again, and I have to assign them to the correct quests again, and on and on and on. Almost every conversation must be redone, the same choices made. The only difference is what the developers have decided you can be cool and mysterious and omniscient about. The kicker is that Sovereign Tower's narrative relies on this power, and thus it suffers for it. I missed a shit ton, trust me, I know, and the game gives you the option to go all the way back to the start, with complete knowledge of every major and minor event you've discovered. But there are 45 turns or cycles in this game. It took me over 10 hours to complete, and each cycle requires you go through all of that tedium again and again and again. The one saving grace of monotony is difficulty, but the game is too easy for that, and I was satisfied enough by the end without using this mechanic to its fullest potential. It's a damn shame it couldn't be more than it is, and Wild Wits games are super bloody lucky that everything else from the music to the art to the characters are good enough to hold this game high above that failing. Because I still had a really great time with it. And despite the negativity to close this off, I really recommend you give the game a try. There's much to discover. And if you can tolerate some of the monotony better than I did, I know for sure that there's an amazing, amazing game underneath it. And hey, look, I got bang for my buck, so. Hey, if you're still with me, I'm James. If you happen to enjoy the video, please do consider dropping a sub. I promise I am in it for the long run. Thanks!